Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. Well, the moment has arrived. The latest Eugene Ormandy box. Oh my goodness, what a thing this is. 94 CDs consisting of his Columbia Stereo Collection, 1964 through 1983. And my, oh my, there's some astonishing stuff in here. You know, we've been talking about in the previous sets how, there's the expected Ormandy stuff. You know, he does really good Tchaikovsky and things with strings and all of that. But then all of a sudden you'll come across something that you didn't know existed. And you think, oh, God, my goodness, what's he doing? Well, he does it amazingly well, because Ormandy had a method, and that method was extraordinarily musical. It's fundamentally musical. And when you have a fundamentally musical method, as opposed to an egomaniacal or somehow politically motivated, whatever it is, method, then you're going to make great music, depending on what music you're playing. So we're going to come across some examples of that in this set. There are some very familiar friends and some things that you're not going to believe. I mean, really. Anyway, we've got 94 CDs. I'm opening the box here on my cat stand. Here they are. And I have to say, these things are jammed into these sleeves, especially in these multi-disc sets. And I heartily recommend that you get my patented CD extraction device, also known as a false eyelash placement thingy in a drugstore or something, because it really helps get them out without doing damage. They are tucked in there. I'm just making that point. But anyway, we're going to go through this one by one. I'm not going to do the box because it's much better to do the booklet, which it's a small booklet, but it does have the complete track listing, and it gives us a little more insight into how they're doing it and who's doing what and what's on each one, because some of these things have coupled things that were not originally coupled and whatnot. So we want to be clear that we catch everything. There's a very nice introductory booklet note by my friend and colleague, Rob Cowan, who is a terrific music critic, and he talks about some of his favorite performances. I can only wonder, though, if he had the whole set when he wrote the note, because I think he would have added some favorite performances. He's in the UK, and he spends a lot of time at the beginning on Ormandy's single recording outside of Philadelphia, outside of the USA, which was, it's commercial recording. He toured in Europe. He gave performances with other orchestras. Orfeo, remember, had, some stuff with him and whatnot. But it's Dvorak's New World Symphony with the London Symphony, which we will get to anon. But there are other just really remarkable things here. So let's just get to the track listing and go through this one fabulous step at a time. All 94 CDs. Get ready. Ormandy loved to luxuriate in the glorious sound of the Philadelphia Orchestra, and we are going to luxuriate in this box because it's something to savor, let me tell you. Right at the beginning, if you don't want to watch the rest of my blather, just go buy it. There. I've done it. The rest is filler, as they say. Okay, well, the very opening disc is one of those things. It's okay, what do you think? Oh, it's going to be Rachmaninoff. Oh, it's going to be Tchaikovsky. Oh, it's going to be something like that. No, it's Bach's Easter Oratorio. I'm not kidding. And, one of the things that strikes me about this entire box is just how much time and effort Ormandy put into Bach. You're going to see it. Not just his own transcriptions, a la Shostakovich, but other things as well. He was a splendid Bach conductor for the reason that his method, that is a string-based sonority with, incredible soloists, and what it works really well with Bach. Clarity of line, attention to detail, but always an organic sense of movement and forward flow, and he didn't over-romanticize and sentimentalize the music beyond his sound. He had his sound, but as an interpreter, He was very direct, very straightforward, and it works very well in Baroque music because he doesn't futz with it. He lets it happen, and it's beautiful. So we have here Judith Raskin, a great soprano, Maureen Forrester, one of those Bach Guild contraltos, and a great Mahler singer too, but she was a stalwart of this repertoire. Richard Lewis, tenor, who did all kinds of great stuff. Herbert Beadle, Beatty, who no one's ever heard of, but who's very good, is a bass. And the Temple University Concert Choir under Robert Page. Now, one of the issues with Ormandy's big works for chorus and orchestra is that he did not have the world's greatest choirs. I mean, no American orchestra did until you had like Robert Shaw in Cleveland or the Chicago Symphony Chorus with Margaret Hillis, or later the San Francisco Symphony Chorus. I mean, in Atlanta, again with Shaw, they began to get them. But then again, most European choirs were not the best in the 1950s and 60s. Choral works were done, when they were done at all, in symphony concerts, often with amateur choirs. In Europe, the radio choirs got going that were just amazing. And so we're used to an extraordinarily high level of choral participation, especially in the period instrument world, where a lot of these people were actually choral trainers. I mean, that's what they did before jumping on the period instrument bandwagon. And so we can't judge them with the same ears. The Temple University choruses actually, for their time, were quite good. Temple University, in case you didn't know, used to have, it's outside of Philadelphia. They used to have an annual music festival. I saw my first Emerson, Lake and Palmer concert at the Temple University Music Festival. They did had a tremendous music program, and their choruses are good. They're not, the Leipzig Radio Choir. They ain't under Herbert Kegel, but they sing well, and that's that. That's good enough. I mean, if you heard some of the French or English choirs of the time, they're comparable. It's okay, and it's kind of I don't know, jejune to make a fuss over it at this point, because when people are doing well and giving their best, you can tell, even if you don't like everything that they do or the way it's done. Anyway, it's an amazingly effective performance of the Easter Oratorio. It's beautiful, and it would have been a performance. It was recorded in 1963 that would have introduced a hell of a lot of people to music that they didn't even know existed. And it did it in a classy way. Quite unlike things like, Bernstein's St. Matthew Passion, which only gives you like a third of it. It's the real deal. Also, next, one of the greatest recordings ever, more up Ormandy Street, you would think. Prokofiev, the Classical Symphony, Lieutenant Kijé, and The Love for Three Oranges. I have talked about this album ceaselessly. It was on Odyssey. It never got a sensible, decent, complete, fabulous reissue. And it still deserves one, frankly. There is an Ormandy Conducts Prokofiev box you can get from Japan. But, boy, this is one of the great recordings ever. The Classical Symphony is amazing. The suites are stunning. Amazing. Next, Strauss. Ooh, baby. Also Sprach Zarathustra, an Ormandy specialty. He recorded it 3 times at least. And this was the first. There was an RCA one, and there was also a digital EMI one from the very end of his life. The RCA one had some blockbuster sonics. I mean, organ pedals to, rock the roof and whatnot. But it's fine. It's a short CD because some of these are original couplings. Some of them aren't quite. Next, oh goodness, Offenbach, Gaieté Parisienne. What can you say? I mean, beautiful playing, endless fun, and it's coupled with Bizet l'Arlésienne Suites 1 and 2, which are just gorgeous, lovely, fabulous. CD5, Hindemith, Matthäus der Mahler, another Ormandy specialty. He conducted it beautifully. He added cymbal rolls to the ends of the first and last movement. Oh, actually, there was one already at the last movement, first movement. Anyway, there's an extra cymbal roll in there somewhere. And the Symphonic Metamorphosis on themes by Weber, another work he recorded very, very late for EMI. He always did this music extraordinarily well. Hindemith was one of those He was one of those modern composers that the people who hated atonal music championed. And now that atonal music is dead, Hindemith doesn't seem to be championed anymore. But boy, was it well played back in the day. Bernstein did it beautifully, and Ormandy did it beautifully, and thank God for those two. And Zell did the Symphonic Metamorphosis, but the little slightly more extended approach or survey of Hindemith's music. Bernstein did the most, but Ormandy did it very well too. And frankly, nobody else was doing it better at the time. They just weren't. I mean, there was Steinberg in Boston on DG2, but that was, of course, another American production. Hindemith had been at Yale. He always had his American wing, and they did him proud. It's just a fact. Tchaikovsky, the Nutcracker. Is this just a suite? Or is it extended excerpts? Yes. It's seen with the 4S. Yes, it's extended excerpts. And it's lovely, and it's coupled to a really slamming Romeo and Juliet, which is just marvelous. So that's nice. Tchaikovsky and Ormandy are like meat and potatoes. They just go together. Bartók, Concerto for Orchestra, a really fine, majestic performance of the Concerto for Orchestra. It doesn't have the flash of Reiner or Bernstein in the finale, which is just, hell for leather exciting. It's much more along the lines of the Kubelik Boston recording, which I adore. It's my reference recording. It's one of the greatest recordings ever, also. And I don't know if I did it yet as a video, but it is, I'm telling you. This is an extraordinarily well-played, symphonically weighty, Rob Cowan points out, version, and it's absolutely beautiful. There's nothing to complain about. Mendelssohn, Midsummer Night's Dream, Overture, Scherzo, Nocturne, Wedding March, and the Italian Symphony. Well, in those days, in the 60s, this was 1963. Boy, they did a lot in 63. No, everybody did Mendelssohn, and just about everybody did it well. It was standard stuff. Now he's becoming sort of in this twilight zone between the period instrument people and others. And it's a shame because it was standard stuff that everyone did well, basically. And God knows Ormandy does it well. Ravel, the G major piano concerto, and Falla, Nights in the Gardens of Spain with Philippe Entremont. Now, Entremont was Sony's house pianist along with Glenn Gould, who was nobody's house pianist, for quite a long time. And it was fashionable to look down on him. First of all, because his repertoire was often French, and he didn't do the Germanic stuff. We had Rudolf Serkin for that and all that, which was great. But he was also Sony's house pianist, and so was Casa de Sous. So, he was like the minor leagues. That's how people looked at him. But if you listen to the discs one at a time, and he did make a lot of sort of, greatest piano hits things and whatnot. Some of them were very, very fine. And this is very, very good. It really is. And it's always wonderful to hear the Philly accompanying in the Ravel and the Falla Nights in the Gardens of Spain, which is a beautiful performance. Absolutely beautiful. Prokofiev violin concertos with Isaac Stern. Very fine. Nothing to complain about. Again, a Christmas festival. Okay. There's two discs, it seems to be combined here. One with the Temple University Choir and the beloved choruses, pardon me. They've jammed them together. But the Christmas Festival is with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, and then they have beloved choruses with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. These Ormandy Mormon Tabernacle Choir extravaganzas were famous. Everybody had one. You always had one. Didn't matter if you were Jewish, you had a Christmas festival with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. They were considered the greatest choir in the country. They were big. They were somewhat soggy in terms of enunciation, but it was a sound. And it was a sound that really sort of went with Ormandy's sound. And so these are classic period pieces, these recordings. That's what they are. Let's not kid ourselves about, higher values, but they're fun. They really are fun. Beloved choruses, yes, with Pergolesi, Franck, Psalm 150, Leroy Robertson, Schubert's Psalm 23, Beethoven, the Hallelujah from Christ on the Mount of Olives. More on that later. With the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, Beloved Choruses 1, Beloved Choruses 2, and I'm just looking at this stuff. Where's the Temple University choruses and Jingle Bells, some more Christmas goodies. Handel's Hallelujah Chorus and traditional We Wish You a Merry Christmas. Unbelievable. Okay, CDs 12 and 13, the Verdi Requiem, not one of Ormandy's best. He usually did pretty good choral works. He really did. And you've got some excellent solo singing. You have Lucine Amara and Lucine Amara, how you pronounced it, Maureen Forrester, Richard Tucker, and George London with the Westminster Choir. I mean, they got, high-end participation for this performance. The issue is that Ormandy is just not as dramatic as the work really requires. I mean, the Dies Irae is a little bit soggy. It's a little bit not, the piece flows beautifully. It has lovely moments, but Ormandy did better choral music elsewhere. He really did. Nobody ever thought of him as a Verdiist. Strauss, oh yeah, Rosenkavalier, Suite and stuff, along with the closing duet and all kinds of, I don't know who did this suite. It doesn't say who the suite from the opera, prelude to Act 1, the presentation of the Rose, Baron Ochs's waltz, the closing duet, and the waltz reprise. So that's what's in there. And then you've got the dance of the Siebenschleier. Oh, Ormandy does that so well. The Dance of the Seven Veils, and a really nice Till Eulenspiegel on top. So that's fun. More Mendelssohn. Oh, the concertos for two pianos and orchestra with Gold and Fisdale. Haven't heard those in a while. I mean, the Mendelssohn double piano concertos were as good as unknown back at this time. And so this is a lovely recording of those two works. They're terrific pieces. Copland, Fanfare for the Common Man. The Lincoln Portrait with Adlai Stevenson. Wow, baby, yes, a great politician, talking about another great politician. The Lincoln Portrait personally drives me crazy. Ives, Three Places in New England. This was the earlier version of it. Ormandy later recorded the original version for fuller orchestration. He did it twice. His devotion to Ives was exceptional and extraordinary for its time. And although Bernstein sort of sucked up a lot of the credit as an Ivesian, Ormandy did more. He did, and did it exceptionally well for the most part, until his later recording of the Second Symphony, which is a little soggy. But otherwise, wow, yeah. And Symphony Number 1, Ives 1. There it is. Was there an earlier recording of this? Who knows? It doesn't have the cymbals and bass drum stuff in the finale, but otherwise, it's a marvelous performance, because that wasn't stuffed in there until the critical edition, largely because Ives never really wrote it. He just wrote a little note to somebody that said, at the very end, if you want to put some snare drum and cymbals and bass drum in the rhythm, chum, 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 go ahead, do it. That was Ives, typical way of handling these textual issues. Then we've got Schumann Piano Concerto. Yeah, Schumann and the Introduction and Allegro Appassionato with Rudolf Serkin. Performances that have never been surpassed. Period. Trust me on that one. Then we've got, a spectacular display of orchestral color. Ravel, Rhapsody Espagnole. Where's the tam-tam at the end, Eugene? Come on, get with it. Debussy, Danse, the Tarantelle Stylienne, Nocturnes, Nuages, Fête, and Sirène. Beautiful performance of that. And the Reverie of something. And then we've got Quiet Night, which was they're jamming things together here from a couple different discs. The Arabesque Number 1, arranged by William Smith. The Fille aux Cheveux de Lin, the Girl with the Flaxen Hair. These are conducted by William Smith, too, who was the associate conductor there, or something like that. En Bateau by Ravel. No, by Debussy, I'm sorry. It's the Embarque sur l'Océan is Ravel, right? En Bateau is Debussy. That's arranged by Henri Bousset. And that's that disc of, French things. And we've got Magic Fire Music, Wagner favorites. Oh, you've got to hear Ormandy's Wagner favorites. They're always splendid. The Tannhäuser Overture. Let's see, what's this? Entry of the Guests. Pardon me. It's not the overture. That comes later. There we go. Yes, there's the overture. So we've got the Entry of the Guests, then the Lohengrin Act 3 Prelude, Magic Fire Music from Valkyrie, and the Riot of the Valkyries, and then the Tannhäuser Overture, the Tristan and Isolde Prelude, and Liebestod, And the Meistersinger Prelude, that's one hell of a disc. It's two. It's two Wagner discs jammed together. And yes, Ormandy did this stuff as well as anybody did. Who are we kidding? Chopin, Piano Concerto No. 1 with Emile Gilels, self-recommending, right? Yes, of course. Ormandy had that Russian connection, actually. He did, aside from just doing a lot of Russian music, Russian artists, and when they toured or were allowed to make recordings in the West, as often as not, wound up in Philadelphia, where they were astonished. Shostakovich was shocked by the quality of the orchestral playing when they recorded his cello concerto with Rostropovich and the First Symphony and things like that. So, Dvorak, cello concerto, Tchaikovsky Rococo variations. Okay, nothing's going to save those. But the Dvorak is beautifully played by Leonard Rose, who has a box. All of these soloists, had their own Sony boxes before this came out. So you may have these things. It's quite possible that you do. Brahms, Piano Concerto No. 2 with Eugene Istomin. This is really fabulous. Ormandy recorded the Brahms Second Piano Concerto like 3 times or so with Rudolf Serkin, and those are amazing. They're wonderful, 2 or 3 times, God knows how many times. But this is just as good in its way. It's big and ballsy, and you don't usually think of Brahms as ballsy, but that's his second movement has to have cojones. It really does, and it's a thoughtful, beautifully symphonic performance, absolutely excellent, with a particularly strong finale. By the way, it's not too fluffish. It's a tough finale to bring off because it is too fluffish. Brahms sort of miscalculated there. You're going to shoot me for saying that, but it's very tough to do well, and they do it very, very well. It makes sense where it is. The Brahms Double Concerto with Isaac Stern and Leonard Rose, first class. The Beethoven Triple Concerto with Eugene Istomin and Isaac Stern and Leonard Rose, first class. Another excellent version of those things. So that's a nice disc. That's lots of stuff on a disc. It's a good popular coupling on CD. On LP, that's not how they did it back in the day. Mozart. Oh, look at this. Symphony No. 30 and the Paris Symphony. I wish Ormandy had done more Mozart. I really do. Because his classical repertoire, you would think he would never do it. But again, the method, if you give him his sound, give him his predilections, and he was wonderful in classical repertoire, potentially because of his steadiness of tempo, his attention to the long singing line, his handling of balance, his clarity. Remember, his love of beautiful string sound does not preclude you hearing the winds and the brass or the percussion. The Philadelphia Orchestra had spectacular wind and brass players. And unlike Herbert von Karajan, for whom they were, best noted in absentia, as often as not, especially the woodwinds, not so much the brass, they really do tell in Ormandy's performances much more effectively, let's put it that way. Beethoven, Concerto for Piano, No. 4 and No. 1 with Rudolf Serkin. Well, of course, they're wonderful. Excellent performances. Stravinsky, Petrushka. Is this the suite? Yeah, it's the suite. He always did the suite. I love the Petrushka suite. I love it because you don't get that wretched ending. Yes, I know it's a ballet. Some ballets end tragically. It's okay to have a tragic ballet ending. I get it. But the suite is all by itself a really, really lovely, well put together piece with a nice concert ending. And you don't hear it because everyone does the complete ballet. I'm so happy that they did the suite. Kodai Harianosh, fine, exciting performance of that. Stravinsky, the Firebird Suite. Well, the Firebird Suite was interesting. I think he used Stokowski's parts when he ever did the Firebird Suite, because you hear things that Stravinsky didn't wrote, like in the Infernal Dance, the chime, clank, do 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 do, clank, with a chime and things like that. I don't know what parts he was using, but it's okay. It's effective and it's colorful and tuneful. Holiday for Orchestra. Oh, this is so much fun. Here we get like special arrangements by Arthur Harris of all kinds of, bonbons. First, illustrating different sections of the band. So we've got the brass doing Stephen Foster, Camptown Races, and When Johnny Comes Marching Home. The winds, the sailor's hornpipe, the Paderewski minuet in G à l'antique, and the Rameau's The Hen. The percussion, Arthur Benjamin's Jamaican rumba. Yes. And Debussy's General Lavigne Excentrique and Arthur Harris's March of the Mandarins. See, you get these little gems on these collections, and they're fun, and we don't hear them anymore. They used to be played as filler on like radio stations. I used to play them as filler when I was running WJHU in Baltimore, and it's just great stuff. And people would call up saying, "What is that? Why don't we ever hear it?" The strings, the Londonderry Air, the Flight of the Bumblebee, and then the full orchestra, the March of the Dwarfs from Grieg's, the suite, the lyric suite. There we go. Really, boy, what fun. And then we have magnificent marches, Rimsky-Korsakov, Procession of the Nobles, Johann Halvorsen, Entry of the Boyars, Chabrier, Joyeux March, Mendelssohn's thing from the Suite Algérienne, which Ormandy did a couple of times, actually, or at least it shows up on a bunch of albums. Mendelssohn's War March of the Priests, Rimsky-Korsakov from Tsar Sultan, the Tsar's Farewell and Departure, and finally, the Procession of the Sardar. And then on CD 28, we're up to 28, almost a third home. So, oh boy, this is going to be a long video. I don't care. Let's see. Best Loved American Folk Songs. Okay, being sung with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. You don't need to go through each folk song. Tchaikovsky, Piano Concerto number 2 and number 3 with Gary Graffman, a classic disc. Absolutely, Graffman was, of course, amazing. He had focal dystonia, like Leon Fleischer and others, which effectively ended his career. But boy, was he great while he was there. Tchaikovsky, Symphony number 4, None But the Lonely Heart, Barcarolle, and other goodies. Of course, I mean, how could you not love it? It was always Ormandy's specialty. I had that disc when I was a kid, the LP. Saint-Saëns, Piano Concerto number 2 and 4 with Philippe Entremont. He did the complete Saint-Saëns piano concertos. Very, very interesting. The Berlioz Requiem. Yes, the Berlioz Requiem. This is a good Berlioz Requiem. It really is. It captures the big moments. It was decently recorded. The choirs, the Temple University choirs, all 50 of them, or whatever it was, they sing well. Cesare Valletti is the tenor. It's a surprise. At a time when it was hard to... Actually, there were a couple good Berlioz Requiems with American conductors. Bernstein did it, but he did it in France. And that was a wonderful performance, too. But this is shockingly fine. It really is. Mozart. Oh, this is part of the box that later came out of all the Mozart wind concerti, which was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful box. If you don't have it, you should grab it. But here we've got all the horn concertos with Mason Jones, who was one of the great hornists of the 20th century. Absolutely the equal of anybody else, like Dennis Brain or Barry Tuckwell or those people. He was just tremendous. And he had a wonderful tone all of his own. It had a certain brassy quality that was really terrific. And it's great in the Hunt movements in these concertos. That has a rustic quality that I just love. Bartók, the Miraculous Mandarin, and 2 pictures and 2 portraits. See, here's another one of those Ormandy things. He would do the usual thing, the Miraculous Mandarin Suite, which everybody was doing, or some people were doing. But the other stuff, the 2 portraits and the 2 pictures, you never heard. But he always was willing to explore major composers' highways and byways, the byways particularly, and do them superbly, as he does here. So that's really cool. Let's see, what's this? First Chair Encores, Volume 1. Okay, so these are, oh wow, these are things with all the soloists. You've got Anshel Bruslow doing Sarasate, and Carlton Cooley viola, playing his own aria and dance by Carlton Cooley. Yeah. Fauré's Elegy with Lauren Monroe cello, Von Hall with Roger Scott double bass. Oh my God, Look at this. The Knudaya Riesire. Riesire on Da Capo, all those ballets, those Danish ballets that we've been talking about that we love so much. Well, here's his concerto for trumpet and strings. How's that for a novelty? With Gilbert Johnson, Saint-Saëns' horn thing, the Morceau de Concert, and Alexandre Guillemont, Morceau Symphonique. My God, Guillemont, the French organ guy, his Morceau Symphonique for trombone and orchestra. How's that for a collection? Mahler 10. Oh my God, the Derek Cook Mahler 10. Still an iconic version. It was the premiere recording of Cook's completion, which he later revised and diddled. Not necessarily for the better, I might add. There are some things in this first version that were best left alone, like the end of the second movement, for example. Anyway, it's a splendid performance. Absolutely first rate, exciting, direct, beautiful presentation of what Cook did, and very emotionally affecting. And the finale is the most cogent on disc. It really is. It hangs together better than just about anybody since. Haydn, the Miracle Symphony and the Clock Symphonies, numbers 96 and 101. Again, Ormandy's Haydn was surprisingly effective and very, very musically appropriate, and he doesn't get in the way. He understood. Haydn wrote these symphonies to have one rehearsal, then they had a performance. He had to write in everything he wanted to happen, innately, and there really wasn't a conductor, so there's nobody to get in the way of letting the music do its thing. And Ormandy understands that. He's there when the music needs him. He's there for spots of color, accents, some emphasis here and there, but the music moves. It moves. It does its thing. Thank God. Two favorite guitar concertos, Rodrigo and Castelnuovo Tedesco, with John Williams guitar. What's not to love? Beethoven Piano Concertos 2 and Mozart 27 with Rudolf Serkin. Another, all the stuff that Ormandy accompanied was first class. It was just first class. It really was. Oh, this is a whopper. Beethoven, Christ on the Mount of Olives. Well, there's something everybody was running to the store to sample, weren't they? Surprisingly, it's good. It's a very good performance. With Judith Raskin, Richard Lewis, Herbert Beatty, and the Temple University choirs. It's remarkably fine. And even better is the coupling. I can't even begin to tell you how exciting this is. The Bruckner Te Deum. Ormandy's Bruckner was great. It was quick. It was exciting, but it was not the Joachim push me pull you school. It was much more straight ahead. It was chord guy Bruckner, which works really, really well. He did symphonies 4, 5, and 7. 4 and 5 in here, 7 on RCA. And his Te Deum is a shocker. He doesn't use the organ part, which is ad libitum, and a lot of German performances don't either, a lot of other versions. It's of all the ones that don't use the organ part, this is the best. It's exciting as hell. It really moves. The choirs sing excellently. The soloists are terrific. It's Maria Stadter and Helen Vanni and Stanley Kolk and Donald Graham. Excellent soloists. And my God, it's exciting. At the very end, oh, does it take off at the sopranos? All go up for their high C, and they nail it. But even before we get there, I mean, the emphasis on brass sonority, on that wonderful Philadelphia unblended brass sonority, the horns and the trombones and the trumpets all have their individuality, but they can make an incredible sound as a unit. And Ormandy inflects the vocal line. It's not just metronomic. It's just amazing. You're going to be shocked. If you're used to like the massive Herbert von Karajan version, for example. What a difference this is. Mm-hmm. Ritual Fire Dance. Well, you get bits of La Boutique Fantasque by Rossini and Respighi, Ponchielli's Dance of the Hours, Brahms' Hungarian Dance, Faye's Ritual Fire Dance, Smetana Dance of the Comedians, Rossini's Pas de Six from William Tell, Jaromir's Polka from Schwanda der Dudelsack Pfeifer, Tchaikovsky's Polonaise from Eugene Onegin, and the Brahms' Hungarian Dance number 6. Boy, that's a collection. And oh, what fun it is. Dvorak Violin Concerto and the Romance with the Sibelius Violin Concerto with Isaac Stern. Those are excellent performances. The Dvorak particularly is beautiful. A little bit on the slow side, possibly. But they're lovely performances that nobody ever paid attention to. I mean, the Sibelius, yes, of course. The Choral suite is attached to this. It says, but it's not. Do not be deceived. That is a typographical error. It is not on the disc. The Choral suite occurs later. Beethoven, Symphonies 1 and 2. Well, there they are. Ormandy's Beethoven was extremely effective. I'm just telling you like it is. I mean, they're beautiful Beethoven performances by and large, and surprising somewhere. The Eroica, with the exposition repeat in the first movement restored. Ormandy did it with the repeat, and they took it out because otherwise you would have to have a break in the funeral march on an LP. I had the version with the missing exposition repeat and never knew it was missing, but they put it back. Thank goodness. So now we get to hear it's a performance with real gravitas. It's not dull. It's almost Klemperer-like. It's grand. It's 53 minutes long. It's a big scale romantic eroica, and I like it. Then we've got Beethoven's fourth and fifth. Of course, they're just fine. The Pastoral Symphony, which also has a restored repeat in the Scherzo, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And let's see, Symphonies 7 and 8. Yes, those are there. And, of course, the ninth. Now, here's my issue with this performance. It is dynamically terribly compressed. I don't know, generally speaking, these seem to have been remastered, a lot of these, although they don't say specifically here that I've noticed. Maybe I missed something again. But that performance, it's a good performance. But when you get to, for example, the recapitulation of the first movement, as the orchestra is making a crescendo, the sound seems to make a diminuendo. And that sucks a lot of the juice out of what would otherwise be a very, very good performance. It's with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir and, Lucine Amara and Lily Chukazian, John Alexander and John McCurdy. It's disappointing. What can I say? But the rest of the Beethoven is worth hearing. Definitely worth hearing. It's really, really beautiful. Yes, let's see. Symphony number 7, exposition of the first movement. Yes, they've restored it. Thank you. They have notes to all these. Then they talk about the Eroica at number 6. The repeat in movement 3 was created for the LP release by copying the relevant musical segment and splicing it into the master tape. That was obviously done with Ormandy's approval. Yes, they used to do that a lot in those days. They didn't have to play it again because they just repeat it. Some people would say that's sacrilege. But, if they did it really well the first time, they'll do it really well the second time. So I'm not worried about it. What matters is what it sounds like, not how they got there. Let's see. It's a real fact that the ends justify the means, at least in this case. Let's see. So that's fine. Then, this is really cool. Nielsen 6, the Sinfonia Semplice. I mean, whoa! Sony, there were brains working at Sony in those days, because remember, Bernstein had done Sibelius 3 and 5 and 4 horribly. And they needed other people to do, and he also did number 2, pardon me. So they needed somebody else to do 1 and 6. And Ormandy, sport that he was, would play anything. And so he did 1 and 6. And he did them really, really well. Certainly as well as Bernstein did, 3 and 5. It's a very good Semplice, and the Masquerade Overture and Prelude to Act 2. I mean, where would he even have known that these things existed back then in 1964, 66, whenever it was? The Masquerade Overture, by the way, is Normandy's own version with all kinds of cymbal and bass drum added in the recapitulation at the end. If you know the Masquerade Overture, then you know it only has 2 cymbal crashes, da-da-dum-bum-ba, da-da, chonk, in the very central section, and then nowhere else. Well, this has like hundreds of them, and good for him. Okay, there they all are. You get a picture, there you go, of the orchestra with the aerial view. Let's see, what have we got next? Tchaikovsky, Capriccio Italien, wonderful. The Waltz from Eugene Onegin, the Capriccio Espagnol by Rimsky, a bit of the Coq d'Or Suite, the wedding and death of Dodon and that's fabulous. Mahler, Das Lied von der Erde, one of the great sleepers in the Das Lied von der Erde discography. The alto is Lily Chukazian, who sings very affectingly, beautifully. The Abschied is gorgeous. Richard Lewis, an excellent Das Lied tenor. He did it a few times. Didn't he do it for Reiner? This is splendid. Absolutely first class. Gorgeous sonics, beautifully, beautifully played. Nobody paid attention to it because you had Bruno Walter doing it, then Fritz Reiner did it, and Bernstein did it. But wow, it's a great Das Lied. I'm not kidding. It's really, really good. Nielsen, Symphony No. 1, the Helios Overture, Pan and Syrinx, and the Rhapsodic Journey to the Faroe Islands. Don't you love this guy? I mean, the things he would do and do superbly well. And let's face it, Nielsen in Denmark at this period was nothing special. I mean, the Danish orchestras were so-so, and, they had their traditions. But to take Nielsen and to really give it the high gloss treatment with an orchestra of this caliber was a wonderful new thing, even if nobody was paying attention. First chair encores, volume 2. Okay, Marcello, that's going to be an oboe concerto with John Delancey, the great oboist who commissioned the Strauss oboe concerto, or gave him the idea for it anyway. Weber, the Andante and Hungarian Rondo for bassoon and orchestra. Debussy, the Danse Sacrée et Profane for harp, with Marilyn Costello, harpette. And Creston, the marimba concerto. Oh boy, the Creston marimba concerto, well, one movement from it. With Charles Owen. Bloch's Suite Modal for flute and strings, which is lovely. Debussy's Clarinet Rhapsody. And let's see, then Liszt's greatest hits. The Fantasia on Hungarian folk melodies with Ivan Davis, piano. Throwing that in there. Wonderful. Rachmaninoff, Symphony No. 1. That was a premiere recording, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a classic. Yes, Ormandy Ashkenazi is more anguished and intense in the finale, but it's still an awfully good performance. Lalo, Symphonie Espagnole. Oh, God. And Bruch, the Violin Concerto No. 1 with Isaac Stern. It's very good. Gershwin, Concerto in F, Rhapsody in Blue with Philippe Entremont. Surprisingly effective. Absolutely. Oh, CD 57. This one is going to blow your mind. Orff, Catuli Carmina. Not Carmina Burana, which Ormandy did quite awfully, by the way. It was awful. Half the percussion was missing and all that stuff. But he's doing Catuli Carmina. It's really kind of a showpiece for the Who. It was the Temple University Choirs with Judith Blagan, who's the soprano, and Richard Kness, or Ness, tenor. It's Catuli Carmina. I mean, who knew? Okay, it's not the Leipzig Radio Choir. It's not Herbert Kegel, but it's Catuli Carmina. What can I tell you? And it's coupled with the reference recording, the greatest ever pictures at an exhibition. Here it is, kind of tucked away behind Catuli Carmina. Who'd have thought? Oh, my God. Kodai, Concerto for Orchestra. We're up to CD 58. We're getting there. CD 58. Kodai, Concerto for Orchestra, and the Galanta and the Maroshek dances. Wonderful performances, as you might expect. Berg, the Lulu Suite. Oh, yes. A pretty smashing performance of that with Louisa Dessette, soprano. Schoenberg's Theme and Variations, Opus 43B. That's the later version, the later work he wrote for band and then orchestrated. It's quasi-tonal. And Webern in Sommerwind and 5 pieces for orchestra, Opus 10, and you only get 3 of them. They last about 7 seconds or something. So, but okay. There's an unusual collection of goodies, don't you think? Bruckner 5, one of the great ones. Absolutely one of the indisputably great Bruckner 5s. It just goes. He doesn't screw with it. He just makes them play it. And how wonderfully it works when you just make them play it. And they have the lungs left for the chorale at the end, which they do. First rate. And then we've got choruses with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, Anvil Chorus, opera choruses. I'm not going through these. It's every opera chorus you've ever wanted to hear in your life is on here. Trust me. Rachmaninoff 3 in vocalese. Definitely one of the great ones. It still is. It's absolutely smashing. Hora Staccato, the Philadelphia Orchestra featuring the fabulous Philadelphia Strings. So you've got the Hora Staccato by Dinisu, which nobody ever, I mean, yeah, okay. Dvorak Humoresque, The Flight of the Bumblebee, again, the Tchaikovsky Andante Cantabile from the string quartet, the Pizzicato Polka, Bach's Prelude in E major, Paganini Moto Perpetuo, Granados Andaluza, Schubert, L'Abbé, the Bee, Brahms, Hungarian Dance Number 5, Novacek, Perpetua Mobile, Chrysler, Liebesfreude, whoa baby, Beethoven, Fourth Piano Concerto with Eugene Isteman, another very beautiful and underrated, largely ignored performance by a really fine pianist, a wonderful artist. He was best known as a concert artist, a chamber music player, but I mean, which actually works really well with the Fourth Piano Concerto. It's terrific. Respighi, oh, wow, one of the great records ever. Church Windows and the Birds. Yeah, this was on LP in something later called the Respighi album that had the, other tone poems and stuff. But, oh, this is just delicious. Gershwin, An American in Paris, and the Porgy and Bess Suite. They got it. They did it well. Hello, Mildred. There's a cat down there. Graffe, Grand Canyon Suite. Oh, it's a classic, iconic performance. It's one disc. Oh, no, it's on CD 66. We're up to 66. Only 30 or 28 to go. So hang in there. We're getting there, folks. We really are. Schubert, the Great C Major. So wonderfully lacking in repeats. Oh gosh, it's so wonderful. No, it's a very good performance of that. It really is. It's just like his classical stuff generally. He plays with great sympathy and musicality, and it's beautiful. Hallelujah Chorus. Oh, it's Handel choruses. Oh my goodness, with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Yeah, oh my gosh, there's zillions and zillions of them, including Zadok the priest and Welcome Mighty King and Awake the Trumpet's Lofty Sound and David his 10,000s slew. It's only 51 seconds of slewing. Go Shostakovich Fifth. There we go. I mean, everybody, loves Ormandy Shostakovich, and he was great at Shostakovich, except for the Fifth. I'm not kidding. His remake on RCA was much better than this one, mostly because of the finale where he, diddles the percussion at the end and adds like a triangle thing going, and it was, I don't know what he was thinking. I really don't. I mean, the first movement's wonderful, and the slow movement's beautiful, but I find it to be a somewhat glib performance of Shostakovich Fifth, and it's based on what we know now. It might not be fair, because this was something that, but I don't know. I just don't think they gave their best in that version, and Ormandy wasn't at his best. Great Bach choruses. Okay, with you know who. Oh my God, there's millions of these suckers. A bazillion Bach choruses with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, of course. So that's fun. CD 71, Mendelssohn Capriccio Brilliant, and Schumann's Concert Allegro and Introduction, and the Strauss Burlesco with Rudolf Serkin. That's a classic recording of short piano things that were sort of hard to put together, and how wonderfully they did it. And it's a great, great disc. Alphen, okay, 72. Here's where the Karelia Suite really landed. It's Finlandia, right? You've got Alphen's Swedish Rhapsody No. 1, and Sibelius Karelia, and Grieg Norwegian Dance, and Hilding's March, and Gangriangar, the Norwegian Peasant March thing from Lyric Pieces, Finlandia, of course, and Edvard Grieg's Nocturne. So there's where your Karelia Suite wound up. Endless fun, this stuff. Just, these are discs you just put on, and you let them wash over you, and you feel cleansed when it's over. Yes, you do. Ravel, Bolero. Well, he did that well. And Massenet, Le Cid, ballet music. Faya, dances from El Sombrero de Tres Picos. Wonderfully done. The Bach album. See, here we go. Here we see again. We did Bach choruses. We did the Easter Oratorio. And now we have the Bach album, which has all kinds of stuff. Ormandy's own arrangement of the Toccata and Fugue in D minor. It's not Stokowski. And the Sinfonia from the cantata Ich stehe mit einem Fuß im Grabe. I stand with one foot in the grave. Actually, my grandmother's line on that was, "I've got one foot in the grave and another on a banana peel." I wonder how that would be in German. Ich stehe mit einem Fuß im Grab, ein anderer mit auf Ananas Peelzeit thing. I don't know what that is. Then you've got stuff by Anna Magdalena Bach and Ein Festeborg and Jesu mein Freunde, the little fugue in G minor, and the fugue in G minor, a couple fugues in G minor, then some other goodies, Bach et Alf and things like that. But Ormandy made a lot of these arrangements himself. He was involved in Bach's music throughout his career and in bringing it to the public, just as Tchaikovsky did, and actually in a more authentic way. Witness the Easter Oratorio and some of the larger works. Give him credit. It's really kind of cool. Beethoven, Mrs. Solemnis. This is a really good Mrs. Solemnis, much better than the Verdi Requiem, and it helps that she's got great singers. Martina Arroyo, amazing. Maureen Forrester, Richard Lewis, Cesare Siepi, and the Singing City Choirs. This is excellent work by all accounts, and a shocker if you're, not an Ormandy choral music fan. Give it a listen. You'll be quite surprised. Lalo, Cello Concerto, Sassol, Cello Concerto number 1, Fauré, Elegy with Leonard Rose. They're very good. Very good, but, does anyone care about those works particularly? I sure don't. Well, the Sassol's a good piece. The Lalo, Berlioz, Harold in Italy with Joseph de Pasquale, an excellent Harold in Italy. Absolutely first class, beautifully played, an exciting orgy of brigands. It just goes well. Shostakovich 10, one of the greats. Absolutely stunning performance, much better than his fifth, really. And just, this wasn't a work that anybody knew when Ormandy recorded it, and wow, is that terrific. Exciting and fabulously played with powerful climaxes in the outer movements. Yes, the Stalin second movement isn't as fast as like Choral and those people did it, but it lacks for nothing in tension and viciousness and nastiness and all the good stuff. Ballet Fantastique. Well, here's the whole Boutique Fantasque. And Adams' Giselle Ballet Suite and Les Patineurs by Meyerbeer and Lambert. And then we've got another album here, Wine, Women, and Song, Famous Waltzes. Ormandy's famous waltzes were famous. He did great waltzes by everybody. Oh, The Age of Elegance. I love this disc. This is just glorious. Here we've got music by Boccherini, Beethoven, Handel, Mozart, Clark, Hofstetter, Gluck, Fauré, Menotti, Brahms, Humperdinck. That's another album. It's coupled with Quiet Night. Quiet music. Traumerei by Schumann, Saint-Saëns the Swan, Massenet's Elegy. But The Age of Elegance is all classical for Beethoven and Boccherini and Bach and Handel. And it's just wonderful. I did a separate video about it. It's a great record. CDs 81 and 82. This is going to blow your mind. Bach, the complete St. John Passion. The whole thing. And it's as good a St. John Passion as you're going to hear anywhere. It's first class. It is beautifully shaped, lovingly performed. Everything is in place. The soloists are terrific. Where are the soloists? Judith Raskin, Maureen Forrester, Richard Lewis, George Shirley, Norman Treigle, Thomas Paul, the Singing City Chorale. And it's incredible. You're not going to believe that it's Ormandy and Philly. Well, you will, because the sound is so beautiful. But the performance is so true to the spirit and the meaning of the music. Give it a listen, guys. You just, I love it. Respighi. Oh, there we go. Isn't it great? You can go from who else could take you? Let's face it, these days. You've got the period music specialists, and then you've got the chamber music-y people, and you've got the romantic-y people, and everything's been fragmented. Who else could take you from the St. John Passion to the Fountains and Pines of Rome and do it so well? I used to be down on this Pines of Rome. Maybe it's the remastering here, if they remastered it. I was wondering if they said who it was, but for whatever reason, it sounds a heck of a lot better here to me. Maybe I was just not paying much attention. But they're beautiful performances. The Fountains was always gorgeous. And now I have much more respect for the Pines. It just seems to me that there's more transparency to the sound and more bass in the march. And so I'm much happier. Elgar, a first-class Enigma Variations, one of the iconic recordings of the Vaughan Williams Tallis Fantasia, glorious performance, and the Cocaine Overture. It's as good as it gets, folks. Really, really, really fabulous. I've talked about these performances too before. Ballet music from Aida, Faust, Mignon, The Tales of Hoffmann, The Jewels of the Madonna. Oh, that's a great piece. It's so much fun. It's all this, oh my God, like the Trojans, Les Troyens, William Tell Overture, tons and tons of stuff. Let's just let it go at that, because we're getting to the end. CDs 86 through 88, the Brahms Symphonies. Gorgeous. First-class performances. Ormandy does not screw up the third. Thank God he doesn't. We know he's not going to, because he just knows how to do it. The second symphony is a beautiful performance. The first was one I grew up on, so I'm very, very comfortably well disposed towards it. Others may want performances that are more Klemperer-like, or, I don't know, faster, maybe. I don't know. It's a beautiful performance, and the fourth is really good. The fourth is absolutely gorgeous. And we have the Academic Festival Overture and the Haydn Variations. Ormandy was of that era, and his Brahms is idiomatic and authentic and lyrical and gorgeously played. First rate. Schubert, Symphonies 4 and 6. Again, in the classical repertoire, he'll surprise you. It's such a relief these days when we hear all these people twisting and turning and making a meal of this music, trying to do stuff to it, that we hear performances that they do stuff to it. What do? They play it. They play it according to the highest standards of musicality. And God, that makes a difference. It really makes such a difference. I can't even tell you. Bruckner 4, CD 90. Bruckner 4, the Romantic. Wow. First class. Wonderful performance. As good as the fifth. Absolutely beautiful. As great as his seventh and the Te Deum. Ormandy's Bruckner. Ormandy's Bach. Ormandy's Brahms. Eat your heart out, Herbert von Karajan. Bela Bartok, the Divertimento for String Orchestra. Oh, this is wonderful. The tempi are nice and lively, and the string playing is outstanding. And the Hinastera Concerto for Strings, which is an orchestration, I believe it's the second string quartet, isn't it? Oh, gosh, it's a marvelous piece. Creepy atonal in places. Yes, wonderful. So that's an amazing string disc. One of the great string discs that they ever did in repertoire that most people would never pay attention to. Strauss, the Bourgeois Gentilhomme and the Horn Concerto with Mason Jones. Just terrific. Don't worry about it. It's great. Shostakovich. Now we're past the Sony period, really, but he came back, this is the very end, let's put it this way, early digital period, because Yo-Yo Ma was a Sony artist. So you've got the Kabalevsky Cello Concerto with the Shostakovich First Cello Concerto with Ormandy and Philly. And they all got back together and did that. It's great. And last but not least, here we are, the New World Symphony with the London Symphony Orchestra, Ormandy's only major commercial recording outside of Philadelphia. And everyone has always loved it. Of course, the Brits always loved it because they got him. They got him in London. But it's a very, very good performance, beautifully sung and excitingly played. And the London Symphony Orchestra seems totally up for the occasion. And there you have it. Sweating. 94 fun-filled CDs of glorious Ormandy. I just don't think I need to say much more other than the fact that it's now that we can look back on this whole thing. Let me see if I can get this. I'm trying to put the booklet back. There it goes. Now that we can look back on this Sony legacy, the mono stuff, 2 huge boxes like this, 170 discs. There will never be anything like it again. And he was absolutely one of the greats. And the proof is in the hearing. Just look at the range of what he did and did well. And you know that you are in the presence of greatness. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.